This is Swarfcast. I'm Noah Graff. I am very honored to be with Adam Marsh, CEO and President of Ledge Incorporated. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Noah. Thank you for having me on.
It is a pleasure. We met on LinkedIn, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I've been thinking how to frame this interview, and one of the main things I learned from talking to Adam is about how he helps alleviate friction for companies. It's part of what his company does, and it's also part of some of the other things he does. So to just start, I want people to get a little bit of a background on your company, just so they have some context.
Okay, appreciate it. So Adam Marsh, I'm the president of Ledge Inc. We help manufacturers to meet generally quality management system requirements. So you see somebody says they have ISO 9001, we help them manage that and achieve those certifications. But while doing that, we help them with their quality system, right? Implement a new quality system, that kind of thing. I've been doing this since 2011 and really supported my father, who started doing this in 1987.
Wow.
So we have a team now of 11 of us doing this for about 250 companies across the country. Our target tends to be that small to medium manufacturer where, it's a struggle. They might not have the people inside with that knowledge, and we're going to help them meet those customer requirements, especially as they're trying to sell into the major OEMs that really have, hey, you have to have ISO. You have to be able to answer these kind of questions. We have a team that's ready to do that. And in kind of that, in the consultative nature, or in a even as a fractional quality manager.
What are the main sectors? It's not just machining, right? It's
Yeah. So we do work with a lot of machining companies, but we also tend to get into medical device, into environmental certification like ISO 14001. A lot of aerospace companies. We do a lot of injection molding. And kind of you name it, we're there. We also have a food safety division. So there's food safety certifications. We have some experts in that field that we're able to kind of disperse and use the same approach. A lot of the
Is
things.
that to please the FDA?
Yeah, that was FDA or customer requirements again. There's like ISO 9001 has a similar kind of construct in the food world. When we want to be called SQF certification. And it's really very similar, but it's tough. And if companies want to sell to, say, Costco or Walmart, they have to have that to prove they can meet their requirements.
Interesting. ISO is something that has always sort of, I don't know, it's just been something I didn't totally understand. It seemed like a complicated thing. And it also, I don't know, there's something intimidating about it because there's all these numbers and
we don't make it easy, right? We have so many abbreviations and make it so confusing that if you don't know and you're not in the industry, it can be hard. Quality people aren't good at maybe simplifying it for everybody.
Why do you say we?
Well, so that's a good question. So I would consider myself part of that quality world. I've spent time as president for our local American Society for Quality chapter, and my team has helped write some things, and we've been part of that. But I don't feel like, good quality people historically have done a great job of helping manufacturers make this simple. And so my company, that's really what we do, is how do we take those complicated standards and turn it into something that you can actually deliver. Right. Something you can do day to day. So when I walk in and I see this, 10-person machine shop has a 100-page quality manual, the first thing I want to do is throw that thing out the window and start over, because it's just too complicated. They're never going to be able to follow that and keep up with it. And, there's a lot of people, sort of the saying for ISO is say what you do and then do what you say. And if you say too much, you make it really hard on yourself. So how do you have that balance where it's effective, right, for helping your company, but not overdone, where, especially for small companies, they're no longer flexible?
I would think there's just a manual to get to that number and it's just a universal thing and everybody gets a handbook. It's not like that.
No, you need to make it your own. ISO
Why?
doesn't say I have to do it this way. It says you shall do these things. It doesn't say any of the how.
And so that's why they hire your company, because you guys can go in and be like,
This is how you can do it to meet the standard, right? Because otherwise you can really overbuild it and make it way more complicated, right? If I'm making widgets for somebody down the road, I want to scale my quality system to meet their requirements and their customer requirements. Like if I'm making widgets for a small company versus making medical device parts, it's a different kind of quality system. And so we want to build it appropriately for, their industry.
my understanding from our conversation before is that it's it's a pretty established thing for a company to call you guys or a company similar to you to help. Or so what percentage of companies like try to do it on their own?
Well, I would probably say maybe somewhere around 25%.
And does it depend on the sector? Like for particularly machining, what?
Yeah, I would say machining probably does it a little less on their own.
Oh,
If you're in med device, then very likely you're going to hire and you're larger, right? You'll hire a quality manager with the background to be able to implement it. The smaller guys, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to pay for that. Those quality people can be pretty expensive. And so what we can do is provide you that expertise and then train your internal people to be able to manage the system.
right. But even after you train the people, you're still there to go in and hold their hand during the process.
Exactly. We become sort of that. I'm an industrial engineer, and I got a team of really smart people. And so what we do is we kind of hold their hand and make sure they can keep up to date. If there are changes, we help them out. One of the requirements is that you audit yourself every year, and most of the companies don't have that person in house that can do their own audits. So they bring us back every year to make sure they're doing those. So you can outsource your internal audits, right? You see a lot of people doing the fractional CFO, that fractional financial people. We've kind of developed that side of our business. We'll be fractional quality managers. So even if they don't have somebody there full time that can be that quality manager, we can be that person.
So are you kind of like an accountant for
A little
quality?
bit, a little bit, yeah. That's a good way to put it, but way more fun maybe than most accountants. Uh, so, and we have, I would say, a really large breadth of experience from all the businesses that we do work with. And so we can bring that to your company and say, this is how it's done in other places, or here's some ideas for you, and help be able to kind of push you along. And then look, I'm an industrial engineer, so I get roped into all kinds of wacky projects here and there
So
along the way.
people probably give you respect because of that when you
Yeah.
go in.
Yeah, and we really understand the standard and the best, the most effective ways to address it without getting too far down a rabbit hole for some of these manufacturers, right?
Does I bet you I'm thinking because you're good at one industry that can help you.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
obviously you have to kind of like forget what you know at this one point because you can't look at them the same. But at the same time, it's like doing one job and then learning another job. It helps in a way, right?
100%. And we just taught a 5S class at a food manufacturer, right? And it's because these different industries kind of work
Tell me
different.
what refresh my memory on 5S.
5S is sort of a way to clean up your shop and make it safe and look at areas in your shop.
So it's
And
lean.
it's very similar, right? And we're going to look at a region. How do we clean it up and make it efficient and safe for your people to work in, right? And so we'll teach those kind of classes and help train people to do that kind of stuff. And then bring that mindset to different industries. We work a lot. Our region's really rich in manufacturing. I'm from central Pennsylvania. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have everything from, we make tanks down the road here where I'm at, and to paper in town, to cheese manufacturing and chocolate and jerky. So we kind of take our approach to
What's the
all.
most interesting?
Well, that's a really interesting question. The most interesting for me, I really love it's funny because you bring the screw machine stuff with you, and I love working with the screw machine guys.
Right. I know you worked with one of our favorite former guests, Dan Rudolph.
Yeah, Dan and I have went through college together, and we still work together, and so he actually brings us in to help him with his quality system. Although Dan needs very little help, he's he would be one of the excellent ones where I'm able to be there, once or twice a year, and he's good to go.
Is it the people that don't hire you right away? Is it partly ego? The reason they want to?
That would be, yeah, sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's cost, sometimes they find, a manual online that they download and think that they can do it themselves. And, sometimes they succeed, but I would say they do it the hard way.
And usually, often, it's just more cost effective to bring in you guys.
Yeah, when I kind of walk through how expensive it is and say, or you could just do it with us and you don't have to dedicate your people to do it, we'll help you walk through it. It's
Right,
really,
because otherwise you'd have to like hire a person, which you don't know if they're going to be good or not.
or dedicate your internal staff to it, right? And so you're just taking them away from something else that they're doing to do this.
Right,
And
right.
people are the issue right now. How many, can you get enough people in your shop? Whether that's especially in quality, I get asked every week, do you know an inspector? Do you know a quality manager that could come work for us? And we have to be really careful. I really don't like to say, yeah, this guy would be great. And he works for another company.
Particularly, let's focus on machining. What's one of the things that the most people need to correct? You go, "Ugh, another one."
We know, especially in machining, that generally their maintenance plans are normally not excellent at the beginning. And we kind of, especially smaller machine shops, we want to make sure they have a strong maintenance plan.
So they're leaving the machines dirty. They're using band-aids.
Yeah, they don't have a formal system to enforce it. And they get so busy that it's things that they can't keep up with. Right. I would say that's one. Two is calibration, is if they don't have customers that are kind of driving the calibrations required, it might not be something that they're used to kind of dealing with. And three is error tracking. How are they monitoring their issues to know where that low hanging fruit is and making
And
sure.
that's one of the things that you need to be ISO certified. You
Yep.
like have to have a monitoring system.
Yeah, and it can be paper based, it can be app based, it can be an Excel sheet somewhere. But we want to know where your problems are.
And you guys offer an app?
Yeah, so thanks for the lead in. Yeah. So we have an application called 80/20 quality, and it's for monitoring nonconformances, right? Just for that. And it rolls with exactly how we consult. How do you keep it simple? Right? My dad has drilled this into me for years. That's how do we keep it simple for manufacturers? I don't want you to go to your ERP system that's too complicated, but I also don't want you to write it down on a piece of paper to say this part's a problem. So we have an app to, hey, take a picture of the problem, right? Identify what the issue is, alert somebody who can make a decision on that, and then close that out. And once we have built that data set, now we've got great history that we're able to take to a customer and say, hey, here's where the problems are. Here's how much it's costing you. And you can get some really good ROI. So we just kind of released version 2 of that app last week. And it's been really strong for us. So a couple companies using it right now, and we're going to hit the market pretty strong with it soon.
Wow, interesting. Does it help get people's act together by you being an outsider coming in? Kind of like a lean consultant, you go, because then you don't have the supervisor. The supervisor's probably been telling them fix this shit for a while, and then you come in and you're like,
it's time to fix it. And guess what? I'm going to go to the supervisor, who's probably going to tell me all the problems, and then we're going to work on that together. And then those are probably the problems I'm going to help bring.
How often does the supervisor actually need work?
I think they're getting pretty good. In our region, we do a lot of supervisor training. I don't. Our local manufacturers association does. And I think it's really strong. I would say the past 2 or 3 years, that's probably the biggest class that they teach is their supervisory course. I think that's getting way better. The guys on the floor, they know where the problems are. It's can they get that problem to the right people? And look, if you're not capturing the data, how can you justify the change, right? So that's what we're trying to help them do is, hey, if you're not doing it, then we'll help put an app or put a way to track it. And then we can easily go to the boss and say, hey, look, you just spent $100,000 on this over the last year. It's easy to put some dollars into a robot.
And then when the people finally get audited, you guys come in during the audit?
Yeah. So with most standards, really everything but automotive.
And is that pretty typical for companies like you to do? It's kind of like somebody holding their hand while they take the test.
Yeah, most of them don't. It's something that we offer to our customers, and most
What
of
do
them.
they gain by that?
Great question. So if the IRS is there, do you want your accountant sitting beside you? Right? Yeah, they don't. But the accountant might not answer every question to the IRS, but they're there if things kind of go off the rails. Or I think it's more a communication issue. The auditor might ask, "Hey, show me your nonconformances," and inside you might call them errors or deviations or something like that. And so instead, how do you? It's a communication thing where we can be like, "No, no, that's what you call this," and help make sure it kind of goes.
So somebody who didn't have you, they might actually be certified, but they like didn't know how to answer their question, and then they were caught off guard and maybe failed. Like they might fail a test just because.
They could end up with findings that they have to clean up just because it was a communication problem. They might already be doing a lot of this. And some of it is so simple to fix. The auditor finds something that we can say, we're already there, or here's the quick fix, and understand where it's not worth the fight with the auditor, right? To say, yep, this one is reasonable. Like, we'll help you fix it, and kind of get through the audit that way. And so we don't fail audits. We've had a really, really great track record over the years of helping companies get through. Where we do come in is somebody fails an audit. I just got a call today. Somebody failed their audit, not a customer of ours. And now they're calling to see if we can come bail them out. And so, yep, we'll come in and help you write your corrective actions and then get you back up to speed to where you need to be.
Interesting. You said the main problems are poor maintenance. And what is the biggest hurdle you're dealing with? Changing people's practices?
Yeah, I would say time. Most of these manufacturers are working so fast and have such demand that just to keep up and to do that extra stuff.
They think that it makes sense to cut corners.
Yep. And look, that's where if you're putting out fires every day, you're never going to get any better. And so until you start controlling that, it's really difficult. When we look at nonconformances, until we look at nonconformances three ways. So I look at, say, a vendor issue, an internal issue, and a customer issue. Vendor means the vendor sent it to me wrong. Internal means we made it, but we caught it. And customer issues means it got out, right? If my customer issues are high, those customers are not improving. Okay. And it's because we're not being a good goalie. And so until I'm a good goalie and I can stop those customer issues from happening, the internal improvement is really difficult to do because you're just putting out fires to keep your customer happy.
Exactly.
So it's that's been a stress of ours, is how do we drive those low first, right? Make sure your inspection process is strong, and then be able to turn back and now look inside as to the bigger issues.
Interesting. Let's shift topics a little. You're very active in associations. You were saying before that one of the associations you belong to, they actually have an apprenticeship connection. So companies don't have to have their own personal apprenticeship program, which it's an interesting sort of parallel to this. It's another thing. Like, you don't have to do it all on your own. We help make this work for you. Do you see the parallel, right?
That's a great point, right? Is we're working together, and there's some really great history to this.
Tell me exactly, what's the association? How does it work?
I'm past president of our local manufacturers association. It's called the Manufacturers Association of South Central Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And it's funny you say that, because there's some amazing history there, going back to World War II, when they wrote something called the York Plan. And the York Plan is what mechanized our town. I'm from the area of York, Pennsylvania, and it mechanized York for the war. Okay. And that plan ended up being taken across the country to other cities to help mechanize their cities for the war. And it was all about shared work, right? Trying to make the right things, working together, and working as kind of a whole. And we see that for manufacturers. They've all kind of fought each other over people, especially as our people are gone, we're driving wages higher because we're arguing about, trying to steal this inspector from that guy rather than training people internally. And so that has really been the focus.
Which is good in a way, because people aren't making enough money. But
100%. Now, manufacturing wages have really gone up, right? So it's a great alternative to college at this point, but our schools are filled. So our local tech school is full, right? They don't have any more space where they're turning kids away, and that's a concern. So we kind of built this alternative where we're able to teach classes, and then we really embrace that old apprenticeship model. So people can work during the day, right? They work at the company during the day. At night, they take classes at our facility, at the Manufacturers Association facility, and then and after a 2 or 4 year apprenticeship, they're able to get state papers and
How does
respond.
that compare to um, an apprenticeship that's created by a certain company? I mean, my guess is, in a way, it's kind of like somebody's own quality. It's like some are good and some aren't. But
Yeah, you
is
have to build your own program and get it
yeah,
approved by
it's
the
really
state.
hard. It takes years.
Years, and the state, doesn't work particularly quickly. So to get that through, and you want to talk about attractive, how do you attract young talent? Well, they all want education, right? And they want a pathway forward. And so if you have an apprenticeship set up, so our association has those apprenticeships already built, and you're able to use essentially jump onto our program.
Is it a pretty similar like immersion?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You still get that hands-on training during the day, but think about these students. An apprenticeship costs you somewhere around $10,000. Okay, for say a 4 year apprenticeship, and the company is going to pay the bill on that. So the worker or the apprentice is working during the day. They're making money. They're taking classes at night, and so they owe nothing. So these kids are $250,000 ahead of somebody who went to college, right? And they've got papers, and now they've got experience. So they become really valuable. And then we've actually worked out with our local schools. We have a tech school over in Lancaster called Thaddeus Stevens, and we're working with Hack to develop a transition where our credits actually transfer to them. So the student just needs to take some gen eds, and they get their associate's degree.
Interesting. But here's something interesting. I mean, you know, often we talk to our customers. We sell machines to, uh, and they're sure they're always fighting over people, but it's also like they want to train their people their way. Um, this changes the dynamic a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, you're able to train the people your way during the day.
Because they're still working during the day.
During the day, and then
I
at
see.
night, you help to craft the classes around what's going to be useful for them, right? So there's some,
So what
once you
would the classes be?
oh yeah, I mean, you can go do a mechatronics one and take a PLC course and all kinds of other courses that fit with that. We started a quality tech because I keep getting asked for inspectors. So it's how to read prints, right? It's how to do the measurements. It's measuring tools. It's SPC, right? Statistical process control. So we've built those classes so the students come in. It's even shop math. So we're getting down to, do you understand how all this kind of ties together? We have machining ones. So we have our own machining lab with regular, kind of old manual equipment, which is intentional. Students learn on the manual equipment and then work their way up to the CNC to really understand the theory behind it. And that's been huge. I mean, the association put 3,000 people through classes last year, right? And so when you look at, what that impact has in our region, it's really big. But our region is very strong for manufacturing. Recently, actually, up in my corner here, I have a picture of a submarine. Our region is one of the biggest suppliers of components for the submarine industry. So the Navy granted our association a couple $1 million grant to help train people for the Navy component pipeline. And it's great. Now we're connecting students with companies who want to do the same thing. Student wants a position, company needs that machinist, and they're working together to develop a program so they can make parts for the Navy. It's a great, I mean, what a great way. It's the Build Submarines program. So if you see buildsubmarines.com, right, that's what they're working in. And it's a really
And
cool.
they of course have an ISO for military.
Yeah,
Or
most military companies would either be ISO 9001 or AS 9100. And so we help with the 9100. Honestly, that's been our biggest growing sector for the past probably 2.5 years now.
okay. So you deal with environmental stuff, right?
Yeah, we help companies. There's an environmental standard called ISO 14001. Yeah.
Okay. So most manufacturers, I know, like in the PMPA that we're part of, everybody loves to complain about regulations. Everybody, you know, they want Trump just for the sake of
Cutting regulations. Yeah.
cutting
Yep.
regulations. I see it, and obviously I have a different point of view because I don't have a shop, but I see it as it's a complicated issue. It's not just, you know, one one policy is stupid and the other one makes sense. I don't know what your political views are, but I know that you have a more objective point of view. So tell me, like, how ridiculous are various, you know, I know when everybody complains when Democrats are in power, things just get ridiculous, and the grass is so much greener when people cut regulation. What do you think?
That's an interesting question. I haven't seen as much on the federal side environmentally that is hurting our customers. I've seen more on the local side that can be problems, and it tends to be
Interesting.
more water system related things like that they get into. Our approach to this is: do you even understand what your compliance requirements are? Because a lot of them don't. And it's not that they don't want to do the right thing. They would be okay to do the right thing, but they don't even know what the right thing is. And they don't want to ask
uh,
the question and then for fear of being fined for doing the
and
wrong
so
thing.
they get pissed off because they don't even know where to start.
They don't even know where to start,
And
right?
so
So,
their scapegoat is blaming
mhm.
Democrats.
Yeah. And look, there's
I'm
some
not
stuff.
saying that they're perfect, or I mean that they don't do any stupid stuff. I'm sure they do because I hear people who know firsthand. And I mean, I even have some customers, we have a few who vote Democrat, and yet they still complain about um, environmental regulations. And I am always like, I don't know. I like to come in a little skeptical
Yeah.
of what the crowd says.
Sometimes and we deal with a lot of industrial coders. And so then the environmental regulations are pretty strict, right? Your VOCs that you can release, things like that. And so I'm always of the
What's a
mind
VOC?
volatile organic compound. So it's
Okay.
if they're painting liquid paint, there's fumes that are going to come off, and they're only allowed to release so much. So they actually have to track how much paint they're using, and then be able to understand how much they're releasing. So they have to be very careful, with sort of monitoring that and being able to report it. And so my take with most of these guys is they're happy to do the right thing if they know what it is, and if it's not difficult to track. So what we help them do is meet those requirements. And then honestly, I want them to take credit for it. Right. And so we've helped a lot of painters actually get the certification because they're already doing the right thing. They just don't get any credit for it. People think it's that dirty paint shop down the road. And instead they're actually in really good shape. So, and they come up with really unique, game plans. We had one that was taking their shot glass media and actually selling it to a cement company who was mixing it with their cement right after it was used. So they come up with, unique ways to do this. And if they have that, their customers, if they have that certification, that 14,001, their customers actually have some confidence that they're doing the right thing. If you're trying to sell in Europe, it's really not a choice anymore. You pretty much have to have ISO 14001. So that's our biggest driver for that is our customers who say, hey, we want to sell to Europe or we want to
Hmm.
sell to Volvo or something like that. They're going to require it. It's kind of that like gate that they, to keep somebody out. Hey, if you don't have 14,001, we don't talk to you. Well, boom, we can help you get that, especially if you're already doing the right thing. It's really not tough to get there. And if you aren't doing the right thing, the fines are huge. So whether
Yeah.
you agree with it or not, you need to do it and understand what your risk is there.
So what's the stupidest thing, for the people who, supporting all the people who do complain, and I don't doubt that their complaints have a lot of merit, but I mean, yeah, give me some lowlights.
Dumping stuff down the drain is pretty nasty, right? And some, some cleaning chemicals that you really shouldn't be dumping. We ended up running into one where somebody was dumping some stuff. Nobody ever really knew it was them until a meat packing plant went in beside them, and now their heavy metals that they were dumping and the organics were mixing and causing problems at the plant.
No,
And now,
what I'm saying is a government regulation that you can objectively say this is so stupid, and we have the right to be hating.
I had one where it was a painter who was not permitted to use the water from the township because he was going to use too much. And it cost him a lot of money to put in a reverse osmosis system to be able to clean his own water. And they made it so expensive for him to connect to the water system that it never really made sense. And to make a guy put in a complete RO system for that is kind of crazy. And so I would say water and runoff tends to be a huge issue for anybody who wants to build right now. The headaches you get with doing the runoff calculations. That's where I see the environmental problems more often.
But
Is during
what's interesting about what you said is that the local stuff is really where people get hurt, and the national EPA, you think, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It sounds like you're saying people are making a bigger deal out of that than it is.
at least for our customer base, I haven't seen that as nearly as big a deal as what local folks can do to facilities. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Another thing that really struck me when we met on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn coach. Hopefully, people don't think that's ridiculous. Trying to crack the code, and one of the things that he has instructed me to do is to direct message people who I'm connected with every day. And I connected with you, and I said, hey, you want to get on a call and just meet, which, if people listen to this podcast, they know that I am into that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's kind of overwhelming to message. The coach said to message 5 people every day. And I'm just like, sorry, there ain't no way that's going to happen. I have a life and a podcast and a job. So I message one person every day. I messaged you, and you agreed to meet. But you talk to several people a week, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a decent LinkedIn following, but I reach out and they reach out to me. I get a lot of work from LinkedIn of people who are looking for ISO support. I really focus on good content if I'm going to put anything up. I don't do that, hey, it's got to be a post a day kind of thing, but I do try and connect with people. If they're in quality or they're in manufacturing, I'm absolutely up for connecting because it's going to end up with something. It's kind of, you did the podcast on serendipity, right?
Yes.
And we talked about that book.
I mean, you knew where I was going with this,
And honestly, so I went and I got a copy, and I've been working my way through it. But I kind of look back about how I've grown my business, and it's a lot of that. If I ever get nervous and boy, we're getting a little slow, my father, Fred, always, says, yeah, I've been doing this since 1987, and we've always had work. It always comes. And some of that is we got to put ourselves in a position that when it's there, we're ready for it. Right. And put ourselves out there to meet people. So I'm
call
always
people or people,
and I have a new customer in Ohio and who sent me a very cryptic message on LinkedIn. And I said, sure, you know what, I'll jump on. And now I've got a pretty decent sized project because of it. And sometimes, you just have to be able to read through. There's a lot of junk on LinkedIn. I think you got to be careful. I think there's too many probably of the spam bots out there now that's just flooding messages. So when your message was pretty organic, and you can tell when you read those, right? And so when I see that organic message, I kind of have a better feel with if it's worth.
I mean, honestly, like I'll confess it. it's a message that is like pretty much cut and paste, but my coach, a little, I'll give away all my secrets. He he said, when you're doing it, you do like, "Hey Adam, I saw your profile, blah blah blah," which sounds a little generic, but you put it all on the top line. So it looks like you're just like typing it real fast and actually did it, as opposed to, um, you know, "Hi Adam,
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
line, whole paragraph." I mean, but Jesus, the boilerplate message they give you is horrendo, and maybe they do that on purpose, just so it really. I bet you they do that on purpose, so then people can tell if somebody's taking the easy way out and they're just going click click click.
Well, there's systems out there, and I might have been guilty of this a while ago, not anymore, but where you can kind of load up people, and it'll send 30 people a day, and it'll start message strings, and it'll respond automatically to them. And I would say it worked pretty well for about a year, and now it doesn't work. Everybody's gotten like used it so much that now it doesn't really work anymore. And we stopped that a while ago, and instead we just do everything organically, and that's honestly that's been so much more powerful, right? Because I'm looking into, hey, this person looks like a good connection. Your post about, hey, you want to meet up with somebody, and you're going to the trade.
IMTS, oh, the one I did today.
Yeah, that's perfect, right? Because I'm
It's what
speaking at
it's all about. Yeah.
yeah, I'm speaking at FabTech in October, and I want to line up a bunch of those opportunities to go talk to people who are
Well, I
there.
can't take credit. That was Will Healy.
Okay.
If
Well, that's really well done, because if you can,
he's really smart dude. Yeah, no, it's so simple. That's why the things from 2 years ago, but who cares? I mean, it's so simple, but it's brilliant. He says, you know, of course, this is going to come out a couple weeks after IMTS, but for future reference before a trade show, it's such a simple thing. You say, uh, you just announce to people, "I'm going to IMTS," or you direct message people, "I'm going to the trade show." Why make it, sure, I'm all about chance and serendipity and who you might meet, but serendipity is something that
you can help
you create.
manufacture.
You have to. I mean, that's what I'm always gabbing about, is you have to make it happen, and then sure, maybe it is predictable. Maybe I'll meet up with Adam, but Adam will be with somebody else who I don't know, and he'll be like, "Hey, let's go to dinner," and there'll be like five new people. But had I not done anybody, and you know, maybe you didn't have like your social mojo going where you're just like meeting somebody out of the blue. Yeah, so it's just so simple, but it really impressed me. I know part of the reason you're able to do this is because you've dialed in your business a little bit. You were telling me that you've replaced yourself, which is something I always like to talk about and am envious of.
I hired a business coach, about a year and a half ago now. His name's Stephen Hoffman. He's at a company called Mavergy. He's brilliant, and he really pushes me every week. And part of that is, if you're going to grow, it can't all rely on you. So
Yes.
I've been bringing in people. I hired my first business development guy. His name's Zach Leghorn. He's been great. Just being able to kind of take the ball and run with it, and be able to get proposals to customers. And then I've been working with my team to allow them to take some stuff off my plate, so I can be a little more strategic and not down in the day to day. And that's been huge for us. So we've seen some really big
Yeah.
growth, and I wish I would see manufacturers, you know, being
But
willing to.
see to me what it also says, and I don't know, you may have analyzed this, you may not have, but you're sort of walking the walk in a way. You're telling other people to trust you to get rid of friction. You're saying, delegate it to me, let go. And you're it would be sort of hypocritical if you yourself weren't afraid to let go, and so you're kind of doing the same thing. Have you ever considered that, or am I just so profound that I came up with that?
That's when you think about my last year where I've done, so I'm an industrial engineer and I've had to teach myself accounting, right? And my accountant has really, or my consultant has really come in and pushed me on that side to get help and to make it easier on myself. So I've hired bookkeepers, I've hired some collections people. I've taken a lot of the lift off of me and the stuff that I'm not great at, the stuff that I can hire people to make my life easier and then really focus on what I'm good at. And you're 100%. That's exactly what we deliver on the quality side.
So, like, I'm just trying to do this on a small scale with, say, the podcast. Um, I do outsource the editing and some other things. Um, but my feel is like before I outsource something, I want to like learn how to do it first. Is that something that is going on in your mind, or it doesn't matter? Just like like
I think I'm getting over it.
Mozart didn't move pianos. That's what my dad always said.
I
So
used to do that, right? Yeah.
you used to want to like know how to do it before you gave it to somebody, and now you're a little bit more like
Yeah.
just hire the right person and give it to them.
Now I hire developers. I used to make my own websites. I used to do kind of everything from beginning to end in the business. And now I have teams of people that I trust. But that's the same, that's the serendipity part. You circle back to that. I've met people that happen to be good fits, that their pricing isn't crazy, and that I can kind of work with on that. And it's all, worked out where I've been able to find really good people to do that. And now they're my team, right? I've got, a lady at a company called Brand Child, and she does my website, and she's killer. And so when I need something or an update done, I'm able to send an email to her and she just takes care of it. So it's
It's
way
so
different.
hard to find good people, though. I know it's like a broken record with lots of people.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's internal too. I I kind of have maybe a strange strategy to business where I might not be looking for an exact person, right? I might not say, hey, I need this person who's an expert in this one field. I look for smart people, knowing that I can
yes.
get them to do, what we do, and then I can release them, right, to say go, and they'll be able to deliver more. The first food safety guy I hired, he came in, we weren't doing any food safety work, and now Chad has taken over that side of the business, and he just nails it, right? And he came in doing manufacturing work. Luckily, he had some manufacturing background, but his ability to deliver on the food side has been huge, and a whole new business unit for us that we never would have delivered before. I got
Yeah.
a guy, Tim, who's got, we sent him to learn safety. And so we do OSHA 10 training, OSHA 30 training, because our customers need it. And I just have smart people who are willing to pick that stuff up.
Well, how? So you've been tremendously successful with that. I've one thing I've debated with people about um, how how important is interviewing with people? Is interviewing? A lot of people say interviewing is just a bunch of it's just not that useful because often the people who have great interviews end up being lousy, and
Yeah.
really the way to find good people was just the recommendation.
Recommendations. And then we've actually, I don't know if test is the right word. I can give somebody a side project, right? If I have a little bit of work that's a good fit for that person, I've given them side projects. And if it goes well, I'm going to hire them. Right. And so even before we get that far, we've tested relationships to say, hey, here's something I need done. Would you be willing to do this on the side a little bit? And
Like an employee you already have.
no, these would be ones that I don't have, or they're working somewhere. And I say, hey, I need a little bit of work done. I think you might
Because
get
you just heard that they were good from someone, or
Yep, yep. And if they're up for it, number one, I can see how quickly they jump on something, right? I have one of my teammates is a marine biologist in her background. She's brilliant, right?
yeah.
And I gave her some crazy food project. I believe it was a food project, or it might have been a medical marijuana project. And I said, hey, I need somebody to research this and give me a summary on it. And she came back with it was amazing. I was like, we got to hire her. Like, and so after kind of doing those kind of things, I've learned that you can almost test it, and it actually kind of works both ways, where I can give them something and they can work with me a little bit and see if it's a good fit before
Yeah.
maybe somebody leaves a job, right? And we can all kind of get to know each other before we get too far down the road. So sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't.
So do you think interviews are overrated?
Oh yeah, yeah. I struggle with it, and I've had to do interviews for a lot of years now, and I
Because
do
I
the best.
interviewed a recruiter on the show, and who was very articulate. She was great, but we got into a debate about it, and she insisted that interviewing was really useful. But I think, from what I've read, from what I hear from other people, it's often they can do more harm than good in a way. I mean, you hate to hire somebody without interviewing them, but
Yeah,
maybe you should. I hate should, but
I'm often
you
more
know.
interested in personality. Like if I can see they have at least enough of a background for it, I'm generally okay. And if I can get to know their personality a little better, we're looking for that fit as much as we are anything else. Because I can't send, somebody who's, maybe a caustic personality into a customer, right? We have to work with people. And so I'm looking for really, people who are, yeah, you can't be, for us, you can't be an engineer who wants to sit in front of his computer all day, right? That's not what we do. So I need to find people who are willing to go out and talk, who want to understand sort of the whole business side. Look, ISO touches everything but accounting. So when you're working with a company on their projects, you have to talk about purchasing. You have to talk about the whole business, and get a kind of a nice
And
breadth of
so
what.
everybody at your company has to be able to.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's able to. So I've got a whole team. We put them through classes. They spend a lot of time. Our onboarding takes somewhere around 2 months, where you're going to spend time with other consultants, going in the field and understanding how we do it. So even if they come from a background with it, I want them to understand our approach, right, and understand how we deliver to customers. That way, we keep them, kind of in the same vein of how we work.
Interesting.
So it's
Interesting.
funny. We're really trying to embrace AI right now and find ways that it works for us. And so one of the things I'm planning on building here is our own internal AI that takes all these lessons learned as we've continued to
Well, with your own philosophy, though,
with our own
maybe
philosophy.
maybe you ought to get somebody else to build the AI.
Absolutely, that's happening. Yeah, so we've
Oh,
worked.
okay. So when you say you want it, you're going to build it. You're not saying you personally are going to build it.
No, it's the same with our app. I've got a developer now who I work with. It's great, and what I can do is I get to be the idea guy for him now and say, "Hey, here's my idea. I can give you all the information, but I need it. I need it contained, so it's our company. It stays within our walls, but our team can jump on and say, "Hey, here's what I want to look at today," and understand other ways that we've addressed that, in the past.
Good. A couple other questions, and then
Yeah.
you can go. So first, do you have any advice, any final advice for people with manufacturing companies listening to this, or people in quality?
So a couple. I would say one is this factory of the future is it's the real deal, and we have to embrace it now. Like
What is
where are we
that?
going? So factory of the future is, are we embracing, whether that's industry 4.0, we have to get out of our own way and start to use some of the technology to remain competitive, right? And that's
Like what?
starting to use, and I love it on the maintenance side, predictive maintenance, right? Can we start putting sensors on things to know when things are going to go bad? Can you use ERP systems to actually schedule, right? Things like that we can start putting into play, right? Robotics where it makes sense. It's not perfect everywhere. Video, visual inspection systems, right? That automate some of our inspection. How can we do that? I don't think the answer is we're going to get rid of a lot of people. I think we're going to have smart people doing harder things and things that aren't manual and things. So it's not to be afraid of what's coming. It's to embrace it and get your people in it. So we just spoke to my team today. I was like, please, everybody, go get your account for whichever AI that you want to work with. I just want you messing with it, and then figuring out how it can help in the day to day, because that's going to make our
What
team
do you
strong.
use? ChatGPT? I
I
use
tend to
Claude.
use Claude. Yeah, I tend to use ChatGPT. One of my teammates said today he's using Copilot. So it's funny. We're all kind of all over the place. Yeah, Copilot's
Yeah,
the
but that's a good thing.
yeah, I want to know what works out there. And that's been really powerful for us. So it's how can you allow your people to drive the change in the business? It doesn't all have to come from me. I'm going to let them do that. And then how
You'll
can
go
you take,
crazy if it comes from you. I mean, some people might try to do that and might be able to do it, but it sucks.
and then how do you like allow them to kind of make those decisions and make those improvements, and kind of give them the okay to go do that stuff. And then I really want to use it to think about simplifying the easy stuff, right? And so, um, I get frustrated when people say it's gonna take over all these complicated things when it can instead take over the easy stuff so you can work on the complicated things. And so I like to use the example of my wife and I. So I have three kids, busy life, right? And what's one of the most annoying things to do every week is to plan our menu, right? And so I ChatGPT makes my dinner menu for the week and then gives me a grocery list based on that dinner menu. And then I take it online and I just order that stuff and that's what I make for the week.
All right. Well, that's a piece of advice.
So things like that. Think what are the easy
And you
things?
could put something in. You could say, I don't want carbs.
I don't
Or,
want carbs. I want healthy meals and I got three little kids. I want that kids will eat, right? You can't always be giving them something
and
fancy
it usually does a good job.
oh yeah, once you become a good prompter, like you can kind of get it to where you need it to go. So things like that, it's really strong with. And so I think you need to think about, okay, how can I use that in my day to day? You know what? I need to write this article. Maybe it could get me started. We're using it. How do I respond to a customer? Here's kind of what I want to say. Can you help me put it in a way that makes it sound more professional? Boom, it'll do that for you. And
That's
so
amazing.
things like that, I think is really strong with. And then just let your people figure it. I feel like AI has been built by a bunch of tech guys. It's kind of like the internet in the early 90s, right? Where we were all playing with it, but we didn't know how we were going to use it. And now it's like, okay, you can get in, you can do some stuff with it, but we don't know where that's going to go. So you have to let your people mess with it to figure out how they can use it in their business. And it's that way with all the tech. But I really think tech systems like our 80/20, our quality app, or 80/20, it allows a inexpensive entryway into that. So you can start doing some things like that. We can take the data set from our application of your issues and drop it into ChatGPT and say, analyze this and tell me where my errors are and look for trends and then give me some potential solutions for those trends. So now you've got some cool tools you can do that with that aren't expensive. So when I say factor of the future, that doesn't mean I got to go spend 100 grand on a robot. It might, but could you do these low cost of entry things early now and start to get comfortable with it, and then build the plan to get to that? It doesn't have, you don't have to do everything
Interesting.
at once.
I'm
Right?
curious what I'm going to see at IMTS about AI now that I think about it. I'm sure that's going to be a big thing. What we'll just beat this serendipity thing again one more time. What's one thing in your life that comes to mind that where you just say, "Damn, serendipity played a big part of that"? Besides meeting me.
Besides,
Well, I mean, this could be a big deal. You're going to be on a podcast. You're going to be heard by a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people, and who knows what But I mean, what else comes to mind when you think serendipity? You.
well, in the business world, I have just run into people that have connections to connections, and it's also part of where you live, right? Where I've been able to kind of jumpstart my company because I've known this person, and I've said yes to things, right? So because I said yes to being in the Manufacturers Association and being on the board, that led me to being president of the board and being able to make, hopefully, a large impact. And I think it's a combo of serendipity and, hey, I met the right person at the right time, but then being able to say, yes, I will help with that. Right. And I know that that didn't make me any money at the time. Right. And that's okay because the long game is different. So I would say as I've grown my business, it's understanding that I'm willing to play that long game and get to know people. And then because of
Part of the
that,
reason you're on these associations, though, isn't just because you think it's a great networking thing,
no,
right?
it's both, right? It's you can give back, right? But you can also, help justify it because you get to network. So it really works both ways. Look, it's the same thing, if you go help with your kid's youth sports team, you're going to meet other parents. That's great. And you get to coach your kid and all that comes with it. So, some of that volunteering, it really does play well long term. It's great for the business. And I allow my people to go do it anytime they want to. So I encourage them to be on boards. I encourage them to be involved. It gets our network out, and then I sponsor events at things that we're involved in. So
Wow.
absolutely.
Well, you sound I'm inspired by this. Maybe I need you to come and coach me. So one last thing, do you have anything you want to say to the people of the world, and then tell people where they can find you and get your services, etc.
Sure, that'd be. Hey, look, we love to help manufacturers, and we're really no pressure. We're the guys who really become your quality support team. So you can reach me at ledgeinc.com, ledgeinc.com, and we love helping manufacturers all over the country. Our goal is to keep this manufacturing here in the United States. And we're going to help companies meet quality requirements, do it in a cost-effective way so they can continue to produce. And I think it's a great message when we show students that there's job opportunities there. And I think we have a really cool opportunity as things are coming back here to make cool stuff in America and continue to make it here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to talking some more soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.